All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Botpress Weekly Office Hours. If you're looking at the two people whose faces you can see at the moment, and you're thinking, "Hey, this isn't Jesse or Gordy or any of the people I usually know," we're taking a little break this week. Jesse's out on vacation, so uh, I am stepping in. Hi, my name is Robert. I'm on the Botpress team. Patrick, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Patrick. I'm also on the Botpress team, unsurprisingly. You've probably seen me a couple of times.
Yes, Patrick is a legend in our Discord server. If you've asked a question for help, it's probably either him or Gordy. Gordy is on vacation in chat. Gordy, I hope you're enjoying your vacation. Sitting back, easy peasy. Where's everyone joining us from today? I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to trickle in, as it's just 11 a.m. here in Montreal. I see several people are typing. That's always alarming. You can't hear me clearly. Is anyone else having trouble hearing me? My sultry voice? Mamma mia.
What did you say, Robert?
So someone in the chat said "Mamma mia," and that was pretty good. Egypt, Germany, dang, North Carolina, beautiful. I love all of this. All right. So Patrick and I have a couple of things prepared for today. But as usual, as these things tend to go, we might deviate from our little prepared lesson a bit. We might do a little something else. Ideally, if you all have questions, you're all more than welcome to ask them and dictate uh, the topic of today's conversations. As usual, if you have thoughts or comments, you just want to tell me how nice my hair looks, listen, I'll take it. I'll take it all. I'm happy to hear it. Um, but for now, Patrick, do you want to tell me what you want to think about today?
What I want to think about. Well, what I'd like to talk about is workflows, actually, and it sounds a little bit abstract. And it's basically just reusing parts of conversations or organizing parts of your conversations. So either or you don't have to reuse them. But like for instance, if your bot is an e-commerce bot, and you want to do like a lead gen kind of flow for that, you might want to send them to there, and you want to keep that part of your bots organized in a separate way. So I'd like to show you guys how to do that. Hopefully, it will help organize a few of your bots.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think that sounds awesome. So happily, I am in the position on the Botpress team of not having any coding experience. I'm not a programmer. So I think the way that we'll manage the kind of lesson or workshop today is that Patrick, with lots of coding experience, is going to guide me with little coding experience through managing things like workflows and variables, and we'll take a look from there. I see some questions in the chat already. Can I please be added to the trigger beta? Yeah, Sabrina's got you on that form. Any update on human in the loop feature? I'm gonna say like a little wink and maybe a little stay tuned. Um,
Depends on
and
which platform. So we're getting it to work on Intercom. Actually, I'm working on that. It's already functioning. If you're interested in that, maybe we can talk after the call because it's gonna be a bit of a longer topic. But yeah, would love to discuss that later.
excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen, and the way that we'll run this is thank you for talking about my hair. The way that we'll run this is I will share my studio, my editor, and then Patrick is gonna guide me through what we're doing, and I'll ask questions from the position of somebody again who has little coding experience, little programming experience. And I hope that some of those questions will resonate for those of you in the audience who are maybe also low code, no code builders. So let me over here share my studio. There we go. And maybe the first thing that we'll talk about today then is Patrick, can you define a workflow for me? What is that? I'm new to Botpress. I
Hey,
don't know what this
Drumba.
is.
A workflow, I guess it's just a part of a conversation. Uh,
Hmm.
your flow is like your entire conversation, and a workflow is just part of it. That's that's the best I've got. So you
Um,
can split your conversation in different parts. You can do it sequentially if you want. So you could say the first part of your conversation, the next part of your conversation, the last part. Each one of those could be a flow, or it could be something that comes back over and over and over, which is, I don't know, if you want to call an API, sorry, too technical. If you want to notify someone that something happened on your team, let's say somebody got their order refunded, or somebody requests to return an item, and there's an exception or something, and you want to notify all these repeated actions, you can have a workflow for it. And then once, how do I say this? Once the workflow is completed, you can have the user be kicked back to where they were in the previous conversation. So it's very flexible. It's really just a part of the conversation.
awesome. And as Guilherme says in chat, it's one way to organize use cases, which is just a different way of saying
Yeah.
what Patrick said. That's awesome. Okay, the backend, hang on. I see a question in chat that I'll address immediately. The backend's not stable. Bots not getting answers from knowledge bases randomly. I will say for anyone in chat that has been having trouble with their knowledge bases this morning, I have as well. So I think there's something going on there. We're taking a look at it and we're trying to fix the problem at the moment. If there are any engineers hanging out in the audience on the Botpress team who are interested or want to comment on this question, please let us know. But otherwise, just know that we are aware of this and we're like working on a fix at the moment. Yeah, issues with KB. We know. But thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for flagging that. Much appreciated. Always good to hear. Okay, back to flows. There are two things I want to say about flows after the excellent definition that Patrick gave. The first thing I'll say is if you're from Canada and you play hockey at all, you know anything about hockey, then you would know that flow also means hair. It's what we say when we refer to our hairstyle. If you got a sick flow, you got sick hair. But perhaps more relevant to all you bot builders are the workflows over here. So Patrick, can you tell me where to find a workflow? Because I don't know what that is.
Actually, before we do that, can we start off from scratch? Unless you want to
Yeah,
keep this bot. What does it do exactly? It's your personal bot, and it has. Uh,
it just answers from a KB, but I'll set up a clean bot for you, no problem.
yeah,
One
yeah.
sec.
Okay, let's do that. And can you use the hand holding option, please?
I could totally do that. Yeah. You're gonna make me delete one of my old bots because I've reached my limit.
Yeah, I know. That's why you're hiding your screen, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You
All
don't want
right.
to show me your bots.
Uh, there's nothing untoward happening with my bots, just so everyone knows. All right. So here we go.
All
Uh,
right, so the last option. And by the
yes.
way, if you haven't tried it out, it's a great place to get some extra info.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure all you bot builders are familiar with the screen, but Patrick has put a lot of work into the hand holding, which is like a guided onboarding, which is great. All
All
right.
right. So yeah, you can give your bot a name. You can hit the randomize or whatever. Oh, flow. Wow. Okay. Who will flow represent? Let's do e-commerce today. Robert, what do you like?
Well, I mean, let's stay on theme and let's say a hair product e-commerce company.
Okay. And what will flow do? We're going to support. And what tone would you like?
I'm gonna say cool. Do we think that cool is a cool, stylish,
Cool, stylish.
cool and stylish?
Okay,
See what that means.
that's fine. Okay. Yeah, you can hit say hello to flow. All right, and we don't have to look at the product tour because you got me. I'm hopefully better than the product tour.
Well, we'll
Maybe.
see.
Um, okay. So yeah, the reason I want to start here is because you already have like a fallback with this. Like if you check the AI task on the left, yeah. So the info that we provided earlier, it's all put in the task instructions here, as well as if you look at the input, we have the event state session full history. Um, I'm getting it like this, but there's a better way to do it now. Um, if you I'm jumping around. Wait 1 second. If you go to agents on the top left, yeah, hit that robot icon and you open summary agent. You click that, the second one. Sorry. Yeah, this one. On the bottom here, somebody asked about how to get the transcript. So if you click that, conversation summary agent dot transcript, if you click that, it just copies that line of code, so you don't need to worry about it. Then you can exit this, go back to here, and just paste it where it says AI task input. So nowadays this is the proper way of doing it, but when I built this template, it wasn't available yet, I believe.
I
Um,
see.
so that's how you get the transcript. So basically, what this AI task does is it has like a definition of the bot. You give it the transcript, and then it stores the next message as a variable. And when you type something, you can try it out right now in the emulator. You can ask it like, I don't know, who are you? Like, how can you help me?
I see. Let's pause for a sec. Let's take a second because I
Okay.
think there are two questions that I have immediately. The first is I've clicked into this AI task card here.
Yeah.
Uh, but can you tell me more about these task instructions? What do they do and why are they here? And what are some of the best practices for things that you should put in task instructions in order to achieve, let's say, what you would describe as success?
Okay, well, this is well, it depends what you want to do here. This AI task, I'm using it to get the next message in a conversation. Like basically, this is a conversation. Then you tell it, this is what you are, this is what you know, and now give me the next answer. So that's how it works in this particular case, but you can use it to extract any kind of information. So if you wanted to, you could ask it like after answer the last user message in the transcript, you could say like determine whether the user is being passive aggressive or something like that. And then you would add a variable. Would you want to do it or
Let's talk about it first.
okay?
I
So
would like to learn about things and then we'll do.
all right. So you could yeah, you could say like determine whether the user is being mean, let's say a more general category. Because very often you want to kind of like tell people not to be mean and handle it separately. You don't want people to abuse the chatbot, just like you don't want them to abuse people. Um,
Sure. I
hopefully,
think
yeah,
maybe the customer service language for this would be like a non-cooperative user.
yes, and
Let's
non-cooperative
say.
use. And
Okay.
so yeah, and then we would pass the transcript, which we're already doing, and in store results and variables, we would add a variable, which would be basically yes or no, or in programming language that would be a boolean, uh, and it would be true or false instead of yes or no, but it's exactly the same thing. You don't need to worry about that. Um, so yeah, you could add whatever you want here, and your AI task will check the inputs, and it will basically think like a human would and come up with an answer.
All right, so let's talk about the AI task input. So the second part of what we were looking at earlier. We went through our agents to paste this conversation summary transcript here.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about what this transcript is, why it's useful, why we would want to input it here, and what the benefit it provides is? Like, why am I going through all that work to do this, to include this transcript here? What is it a transcript of, and how is it making my user's conversation better here?
Okay. So the transcript is, I mean, everybody here has probably used ChatGPT. You can think of task instructions as the first message, you know, and the transcript is everything below it. So if you were to type like pretend you're Donald Duck, and then you start having a conversation, if you didn't provide the transcript, which would be the part after the first message, it would never know what was said in the conversation. So you're providing the full context of the conversation so that it can follow the user's questions. So if you don't do that, like you could try removing it and just saying hello, and it would basically always just it wouldn't know what you're talking about previously. It would just forget it basically. It would be a goldfish.
Sometimes I feel like a goldfish. Okay, so if I were to play back to you what I just heard, the summary agent provides this transcript so that the your bot, while it's having a conversation, is able to remember what you spoke about with your user previously.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's very exciting. Okay, I see a couple of questions coming through in chat. So I'll just take a sec here to answer them. The first is we've got a feature request that we receive fairly, in fact, multiple times a day, every day. I love the commitment about making sure that messages in bots can be streamed, so the typing effect, like ChatGPT, can be streamed out. If you're interested in this feature, if this is something that you wanted or requested, make sure that you upvote it in the feature requests channel here on Discord. If you're watching on YouTube, a recording after this, come join our Discord. Say hi. We hang out. It's great. So that's the first question that I see. The second one related to this is what is the maximum length of the AI task? I don't see, it's not noted here. Patrick, do you know off the top of your
Should,
head?
should be, well, last I heard it was 4,000, but feel free to try to prove me wrong. So 4,000
4,000.
characters for a task instructions AI task input together.
There we go. So Beanie, I hope that answers your question. 4,000, but you've also been challenged by Patrick to see if that's correct or not.
Oh yeah,
So give it a shot. We've got a
he
link
will.
also from Gordy for some documentation. So hopefully that's helping out. I've got another question from Simply Great Games. KB can't use summary transcript from bot though, correct? Patrick, can you field this one? That can knowledge bases use the summary transcript or not?
I am not sure. There are ways. There are ways to do it. I'm not sure if it's doing it. I don't want to say right now. Yeah.
Okay, that was
I
a
would say
very
experiment.
very polite, inconclusive answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so Noel, you asked a great question. What is the difference in input that I have to give in an AI task card between task instructions and AI task input? You
Okay.
have, Noel,
That's
the
a great
exact same
question.
question that I had. Beautiful. Even
Fantastic.
Patrick thinks it's a great question. He will answer it now.
Task instructions doesn't change, and your AI's task input is what changes. So um, you could like theoretically put everything together, but we separated it just for organization's sake. So yeah, like the first part is the stuff. It says it defines the task that you want to happen, uh, and everything inside doesn't change. But like um, if you were to, oh no, I'm not gonna ask you to do that. But you could theoretically combine them. It's just the way we did it in Botpress. We split it off, so it's organized. But it's really like one and the same.
Okay. I'm not sure that I understood the answer to that question, but
Okay,
I
okay,
think that I do.
okay. Well, one is really if it's not changing depending on the context, it belongs in the task instructions. And if it changes depending on the context, it goes in the AI task input.
Maybe let's see if we can explore that further through an example. Um,
Um, like I've never tried this, but I think it will work if you were to copy everything in task instructions and dump it in task input. I think this is likely to work. And then above here, you have to say you're a helpful assistant to let it know that
in
it should be helpful.
in
Yes,
task instructions.
I think there's a high chance this works.
We love that's a high chance. I mean, those are pretty good odds. So should I test this out in the emulator or anything else I
Yeah,
need to
sure.
do?
Just say hello here or something.
Hello.
Yeah, okay. So I answered normally and like ask it what can it help you with? There you go.
And there
See,
you
so
go.
it's still working. So it's just for organization's sake. We split it off. So if it's something that doesn't change depending on the context, it really belongs in the instructions.
Understood. Okay, interesting. So then let's just wrap up. Let's come to a conclusion on this, the difference between instructions and input. Functionally, what they are we've separated them out to make it easier for you to organize what you're asking your bot to do in certain contexts. So if that changes from card to card or node to node, some of these things might be global, like the instructions for your bot being a helpful assistant, and some of them might be different. So that's the input. So what are you asking it to do at this specific node? Cool. All right. Thanks, Patrick. That's great. We've got a few updates here in chat, so I'll just make sure that we're all staying up to date. We've got an update from F on our team. OpenAI is experiencing degraded performance. It's the end of the week. It's a Thursday. It's been a long week, so I'm also experiencing degraded performance. So that's super relatable. But that might be why KBs are a bit off the rockers at the moment. So stay tuned. You can check out status.openai for updates there. And then I've got another question in chat. Can you show how to use intents correctly? We want a user
Yes.
to be able to type their response rather than choose from a list. I've tried to get this so many times, however, it does seem to get confused. Yeah, intents are a really cool feature in Botpress, but they might take a bit of hand holding, as we all do at times. We were all young once. So I think, Patrick, that's on the agenda for today, right? Is maybe to
Yes,
talk about
totally.
intents?
That's like almost the next step.
All right, so it's
Yeah.
just hang in there. We'll talk about intents in a moment.
I just wanted to mention something here. In the AI task, we're storing the results in a variable. That's the next response, but the AI task itself does not output the response. So if you look on the left in the node, and you click that, the next, yeah. See, I had to output it there.
Okay, so I'll repeat this for my low coders in chat. What's
Yeah.
happening here is your bot is generating an answer. It has the answer in its head, but we, the bot builder, the owner of this bot, haven't told it to say that answer to anybody yet, and it won't automatically do so. So what that means is your bot won't just say things for the sake of saying things unless you tell it to. So what's happening here is when we see here store result in variables, the result is just the answer to whatever you're asking or your user is asking this bot. It's storing that result in a variable here, next assistant message. And in order to make sure that our user sees this message, we just use a simple send message card using this variable. Your user will not see at next assistant message. They will see the actual answer itself.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe
if
another
you,
way of saying it is the AI task is a brain only, and the text input here, that's the mouth.
that's a great way of saying it. I love that. That's excellent. I will say, if you don't know what variables are, and you're in chat and you're like, or you're in the audience and you're like, I don't know what the heck a variable is. I've got two solutions for you. The first is we recently put out a dictionary playlist on YouTube, so you can go check out what some of these terms mean. There are 34 videos there that you can study through. Also, we'll talk about variables during the stream, so just stay tuned then, I guess. But if you don't know what a variable is, it's totally fine. We're going to run through the whole thing. That's on the agenda for today.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a workflow. So right now you're in the Agents tab in navigation. So can you hit the Workflow tab, or I'm not sure what it's called now.
Yeah, let's take a look.
The tab on the left.
So right over here, this
Oh, the
icon, we're
Explorer,
looking
sorry.
for the Explorer,
Yeah.
and this houses all of our workflows.
Okay, and to create a workflow, you have to create the icon that looks like an Explorer, but with a plus. Yeah, add workflow.
So just for some clarity, this icon here is the workflow icon, and here we are adding a new workflow. Okay.
Okay, and you can call it, do we care about return or refund? Any preference?
Um, let's do return
Return.
because we are managing hair products and maybe they want to return it.
Okay, return. Okay, so let's call it return. Perfect. Okay, and now let's go back to the main workflow. Yeah, here.
Let's pause here for a sec. Patrick, what is the difference between the main workflow and this return workflow that we just created? I don't understand.
They're just parts of the conversation. So the main workflow is a special part of the conversation. It's where everything starts. The conversation always starts at the main workflow, and it always starts at the start node of the main workflow. Uh,
So
yeah.
the first time your user interacts with your bot, they'll begin over here at start in the main workflow. They
Yes.
will not leave this workflow until you tell them to. So you enter another workflow. In this case, let's say we push them to do a return, or they run into one of our default workflows. So we've got error here. I will just take a sec here to show you what the different workflows are. We've got error, which is if your user does something that your bot doesn't understand how to handle, they'll get automatically renavigated to the error workflow. You've got timeout. So this is, let's say your user doesn't input something for a couple of minutes. Maybe they left, maybe they had an emergency, maybe they had to have internet troubles, whatever the case is. They'll end up in the timeout flow. And then conversation end flow. This is how your user's conversation will always end. And so these are the default ones, and then you can add workflows here on the bottom. I see a really good question in chat. Is there a way to have different knowledge bases for different workflows? We've got another answer from David in chat who beat me to it. Yes, Beanie, you can have different knowledge bases for different workflows. You've got to put the workflow in a folder and the corresponding knowledge base in that folder as well. You can create a folder over here using the folder icon in the Explorer, and then you can nest your workflow right under it. And you would have to nest your knowledge base in there as well. So Beanie, I hope that helps. I would recommend just giving it a shot. But for now, let us, actually, again, sorry, I see another really good question in chat. How to send the user from the main workflow to another workflow. Excellent.
Yes,
Patrick,
that's
can you walk me
exactly
through
what I'm
this?
doing right now. Okay, so there's two ways. Well, there's two ways. The first thing we have to do is have like a node be the node that connects this workflow with the other one. So to do that, sorry, no, not like that. Can you delete that?
I got eager. I was too excited.
Okay, so right click. I'm going to show you both methods. And then execute a workflow, and then your workflow appears here. So you can click that and click return.
Ah, there we go.
So that's method number one. These are special nodes, so they don't have all the like the normal powers of a normal node, but yeah. So this is the first way to do it. The other way is, can you open the panel on the left hand? Yeah. I think it will appear here as well. If you scroll down, yeah, right there, you could drag and drop this into, yeah, exactly like that. Okay, so now we have two. We don't actually need two, so you can delete whichever one you want, but you know how to do it.
All right. So
Right?
that's how you wait, so hang
Okay,
on a
but
sec,
now,
Patrick. All we did was create a node, but I don't
yes,
understand how this, yes.
it's not connected. If visually speaking, it's not connected, then it's not connected in reality. Okay, Botpress is something that you can see. Like if it's disconnected, it won't work. So now what I want to do is delete the create a ticket node because we won't be needing this, and then just move the standard one node to this. Oh yeah, you can do that as well. Okay, and let's rename it to something else. Yeah. So I return node flow is fine. Okay, perfect. Robert, you're going so fast.
I'm so
Creating a
sorry.
node.
We are
So
one mind, Patrick. We spend way too much time together.
yes. Okay, so yeah, so the thing you need to do right now in this particular template is if you want to override the default response, you have to check if some condition happens before it reaches the brain, let's say. You want to like short circuit the brain. And the way we do that is because Botpress is top down, if we use a transition above the AI task and it fits the condition, it will never reach the brain, let's say.
So,
So
Patrick, let
yeah,
me stop you for a second there. When you say bot press is top down, can you explain what that means?
okay, so well, it's actually left, right, and then top down. So just like reading English. So if you look at the start node at the very top,
Mm-hmm.
you can see there's nothing, and then it has something connected on the right. So it goes from left to right, and it follows there. It hits assistant. Then assistant, it starts going down. So it checks if answered from knowledge base is true. If it is, then it goes right. If it's not, it goes down. It checks, it does the if user wants a human. If it's true, it goes right. Then it keeps going down like this, so on and so forth. So the general direction is left to right for transitions, and then top to bottom when it's in a node. Okay.
Excellent.
So yeah, so we really want to prevent the default response here, and we want to like catch is maybe not the right word. We want to like detect when the user says something that means that they want to return an order. So in this case here, when you click if user wants a human, yeah, let's open that. Right now the condition is false. That's just for the default template. We're going to change that. We're going to use intents actually. So on the top right where it says expression,
Let's pause for a sec here. If you are
okay,
in the audience and you were asking about intents, now is your time to pay attention. This
yes.
is your time to take out your notebook or however you take notes, and watch what's going on. And so now, Patrick, before we start doing anything, um, can you give me maybe a high-level explanation of what we're going to be adjusting here and how it relates to intents or what an intent is, or what we're going to be doing before we do it?
Okay, so we have a condition right now, and the false just means no. So it means this condition will never trigger. And it's just there by default, just to show you how it works. And if you follow the product tours, it will actually show you how to convert this to an intent. So we're going to do exactly like we do in the product tours here. And what intents are, it's like you give it a list of words or keywords or sentences that you wanna give to the AI and say, if something like this happens, if the user says something like this, I want you to match it. I want you to like determine that, how do I say this? Detect it.
Yeah, so
It doesn't sound.
intents are called intents because they detect what your user intends to do, what they want to do, what their desire to do is. So at this node, what's going to happen is your bot will listen or pay attention to what your user is saying, and then it will be able to understand, okay, does my user want to process a return? Whatever we tell it to pay attention to. And as soon as it notices that, then it matches this condition, so the answer is yes, and then we're able to redirect them on this flow. So once the bot notices that our user wants to process a return, we'll be able to move them to the return workflow. At a high level, that's what we're doing, but you can think of this like um, if you were walking down the street and you saw a dog and the dog was panting really heavily and its tongue was out, you would be able to detect that this dog wants to drink water, right? It's kind of the same thing. Your bot is detecting what your user wants to do based on, in this case, natural language. So, how do I set this up?
Click intent. By the way, I love your example of the dog panting, and it
We have
means
a
and it wants
we have
water.
we have a dog in the office today, so I've got dog on the brain.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I've clicked intent.
Okay, so now I'm thinking about the dog. So where it says intent is right there, it says type of value. So this is where you would put like the panting example, but we're not going to do that because we're not doing a panting example. We can just write refund
Okay,
where it says
so
type of value a little bit below.
Patrick, what is the difference between these two inputs? I don't understand.
Okay, so the label, the first one is it would be is thirsty, and the second one is panting. In the case of the dog. I so basically the first one is what do they really want? And the second one is like, what do you want to happen for us to detect that that thing is really what they want?
Yeah, so just for functionally for all you bot builders out there, this first input here, the label, this is just what's going to show up here. To help your workflow stay organized is to know what the intent actually is. It's kind of like the title that you might give your intent. So in this case, let's say we'll call this a return because
Yeah.
that's what we want to have happen. Patrick, before we move on, I see a question in the chat from Beanie. By catching user's intent, we can redirect the user to another flow as well. Yes? Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Patrick, please correct me if this is wrong, but I think this is correct. You can stack multiple intents on top of each other. So let's say your user doesn't want to process a return, but they really want a drink of water. You
Yeah.
can have one intent card here for returns, another intent card below for a drink of water, and then if we don't reach any of those, then we'll move on to the AI task at the bottom here.
Yeah, I mean we can do it right after this. Um,
Nice.
I'll show you how to do it simply. So intent is return, and then here let's type return. So I mean, if you look at chat conversations, very often people just use the keyword that they want. Um, or you can say, I want to return my order here.
So, Patrick, we're typing a lot of things here. Every time I hit enter, a new input appears, asking me to type a value. Can you explain to me what's happening and why I'm typing these things out?
Well, okay, I again with the dog. Let's say panting is an example of a dog wanting water. Another example might be like assuming it's a sunny day, the dog is like lying on the ground, motionless. Like it could you might want to think, okay, this is a signal for the dog being thirsty. It might be a signal for other things as well, but like we're gonna add it for a dog being thirsty. Um, so if you add more examples like this, you can really narrow down, like improve the detection algorithm. Um, yeah,
So so
exactly.
let so let me play this back to you then. Um, every time that we add an additional phrase here or an additional example of what a user might say, as you said, a signal of what a user might say when they want to process a return, our bot will be able to detect that. Now, is the bot only going to be able to detect these specific phrases,
No, no, no.
or
It should be these or similar.
so how does that work then? How does the bot know to detect similar phrases if I haven't typed them out here?
Well, that's a little bit of magic. I mean, you can think of this as an AI task that's dedicated to just detecting things.
All right,
Uh,
so for all you eagle-eyed viewers out there, I'm going to type another example and pay attention to what happens here to this little green dot and the emulator at the bottom. So I need a refund. It might have been very fast. You might not have caught that, but essentially what's happening is we're training our bot to recognize the different ways that a user will ask for a refund or a return on their order. And so your user doesn't have to say specifically these phrases, but imagine we're teaching our bot the different ways to recognize what a user would say when they want to process a return. Okay, cool.
yeah. Okay. So now that we have that, I think we're good to go with this. Can you right click intent is return on the left in the node and click copy? Yeah. And then right click where it says assistant a little bit above and paste.
All right, so for those of you who didn't know what just happened, you can copy and paste cards. So right click copy, right click in the node, paste card,
And then
and then
drag
you can
that,
just,
yeah, just below. Okay. And that's how you stack them. And then if you wanted to, like, well, presumably you would want to change it. Otherwise,
yeah,
there's no point. But you could say like refund or something else, or like contact a human,
yeah.
uh, fill out a survey. Who will ask for that? But why not?
I love to fill out surveys.
You will like proactively ask to fill a survey with a
Yes,
chatbot.
I'm
Okay.
all about it.
To each their own. So yeah, you can stack these as much as you want, and it will just keep looking. Presumably, you would put like the highest priority one at the top, um, because the order matters. Um, and okay, yeah. So now we have our logic for intent is return, and if you want to add any other features, you just add them right there, and it should work.
All right,
So
cool.
now,
If you were just a sec here, if you were the any of the users that were asking about intents, I wonder if this kind of brief overview answered your questions. If you've got additional questions, please feel free to put them in chat. We'll answer them as we go on. I see a great message here. Intent seems like an if condition that checks for input from the user. If this, then this. Execute this workflow. Yeah, that's maybe like a more programming way of thinking about it. Again, I've got dog on the brain as a non-programmer out there. But yes, Nova, as you say, to translate it back to programming logic for the programmers out there, it's similar to like an if condition that checks for input from the user. Phenomenal. Love that. Patrick, I have a question that
yes.
I am either anticipating or I suspect that someone else in the chat has or somebody watching this VOD will have later, which is this intent here specific to only this node, or am I able to reference it in other nodes? Like,
Like reference.
will my bot always be listening for a return, my user's desire to process a return in other nodes where this intent card is not present?
No.
So how
That
do I set up a global intent?
uh, if you follow this bot architecture, it's actually more or less global, because um, the end the end of return node. Okay, I'm going a bit into. You asked a very good question. Um, so you can build your bot in multiple different ways, and the way this bot is built is that it will always end the conversation immediately, but it will remember uh, what the conversation was through the transcript. and then it will keep feeding it back in over and over and over and over. So this is like general intent detection in this model, but this is not true in all of the bots.
Right. I see. So, spoiler alert, I knew the answer to this question before I asked it because I was hoping that we would get to it. And I very happily see that there are a couple of answers in chat about this already. But I'll just go over them here. So one way to set up global intents is the way that Patrick was talking about. The second one is your library here, this icon. So right after agents, you've got a library. This stores your global intents. So what that means is at every node, your bot will be listening for the intents that you set up here. And you can add additional ones here. And the process of adding intents is the same as what Patrick and I ran through previously. So at every node, your bot will be looking for any of the intents that you place here. You don't have to put an intent card there either.
You do though. I mean, it will detect it technically. You're right. It will do it everywhere, but you will not be able to. It won't come back here and match it because there's no transition. So effectively, it will be not useful.
Right. So what you would need to do then is fine. So what you're saying is your bot has detected this intent, but you still need to tell it to do an action based on what it's detected.
Yeah,
So
you need that intent card for sure
yeah,
if you want to use intents.
yeah, it will only match if you add an intent transition card. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I see one last question that I want to get to here. What do intent entities do in the library tab?
Oh, okay. Entities are when someone gives you a statement like I want to buy a blonde hair product. So the intent is purchasing a product, but the entity would be the blonde hair product. So it's part of an intent. So part of an utterance, part of a sentence that you want to always extract. It could be a date, it could be a product line, it could be whatever really. But it's part of something that you want to extract. That's
So
that's basically what an entity is.
you can think of these like this is how it was explained to me. So if this is wrong, then I'm blaming that person. No, I'm kidding. Entities are like parameters for your various intents. So let's say the intent is buy a coffee, order a coffee. Then the parameters or the entities would be like, is that coffee caffeinated? Or what size is it? Do you want a single or a double shot? So that you can think of them like modifiers for what the intent is. Um,
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
okay, so let's go back to our main workflow here. That was our nice little detour into intents.
Okay.
Um,
And now let's do a little detour into the return node.
Okay, so let's see what happens here. So our user has entered this conversation with our chatbot. They're not answering a question from a knowledge base. They say, I want to process a return. So then the bot detects that they want to process a return. They send them down this path, and now they've entered the return workflow. What
Yeah.
happens next?
Actually, I would like to try it out because I mean that's what I would do normally. We made a change. I would almost always just try it out immediately because if you keep making changes and then you realize it's broken, you don't know which part of your changes broke it. So let's just say I want to return my order here, and we expect nothing to appear because it will match the return workflow, and it will not keep going in the fallback, which is
I
the
see.
brain, the AI task that we had at the beginning. And perfect, we got nothing. So yeah, you really want to make sure. That's
What
exactly what we expect here. So
what I was what I was demonstrating there, sorry, just for a sec. What I was demonstrating there was that the emulator on the right doesn't show specific. It's not specific to your workflow.
yeah,
It's your whole chatbot. So this emulator panel, despite navigating around the Explorer panel here, doesn't change.
yeah. Also, we can go back to the return flow. Typically, what I would do is I would add a card. So click in standard. Also, okay, wait, let me backtrack here. So you remember in the main workflow, it starts from start.
Yes.
In the other workflows, you can try error, timeout, conversation. I don't know if it's start or something else. Oh,
Entry.
it's entry. Okay. So in the other ones, it's all entry. Okay. But it's the same thing. Start or entry, you can think of it as the same. Start means like the whole conversation starts, and entry probably means it's the entry of the workflow. So let's go back to return. Okay, and here where it says standard, I would just add a card and put some text. So we can just do it. Click add card, text. You don't have to do this. I'm just showing you how I would do it normally. I would type gibberish. Yeah, and then I would try it again just to make sure it's going where I want. I would normally type some gibberish, like 2, 3 words tops, and not spend so much time on this, Robert.
All right. You just want to test if it's working. Oh
Okay.
no, no.
I mean, you typed hi, so you need to type something else like refund. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is functioning, but I mean, obviously this is not what we want. We want something more functional. So to do that, I would click add card again, just below it. That's fine. And we're gonna click execute code.
Ooh, we're executing code.
Yeah. This is the scary part, but we're gonna get through it. So in generate code, let's start with
Let's pause for a sec for all of our because when I first saw the execute code card, I was like, well, that's not for me. I'm not a programmer. I don't know anything about this. So I'm never going to use that card in my life. And yet here we are, weeks and weeks later, and I'm using the execute code card quite often. So Patrick, can you tell me what the execute code card does?
can I tell you what it does?
Yeah.
It does two things actually, and I would like to change the name maybe, because executing code is indeed the end result of what it does, but it also creates code, and I'd like to
Ooh.
focus on creating code today, because I think everybody wants their bots to do something, but everybody's afraid of writing code. So I think the creating code aspect is more interesting. And we're going to do it in a way that is going to fail, but I'm going to show you how to figure out the problems, how at least I would do it, and then how we could eventually get it to work.
Wait,
Okay?
wait, wait. So you're telling me that Botpress can just write code for me?
Yes.
How does it do that?
Uh, okay. Do you want to? Okay. All right. So the way it does that is it has information about all of your bot already. And using that information as context and using what you ask it to do, it will generate code that it thinks it will do what you want to do. Um, Now the problem here is the context. You have to give the right context, which is the tricky part. But that's what I want to show you guys today. If we have, yeah, we still have a little bit of time. We probably won't get it to work in the time that we have, but I'll show you the ways to troubleshoot and get it to work eventually.
Awesome.
Okay. So yeah, in generate code, I'm not going to tell you what to write. I just want you to come up with something. Just keep in mind, let's pick Shopify because um, it's a very well established product. It has a clear API, and a lot of people use it. So so yeah, just use Shopify and return and try to come up with a label that will generate code that does a return.
Okay, so I need to I'm in the hot seat. I need to write a prompt that's going to generate code that will be able to process a return. So I, as a non-coder I don't know what I'm doing, I will literally start. My first step here would just be to type out exactly what I said. So write me code that will process a Shopify return. This is like the most basic of the basic, and I'm sure this won't work, but this is where I would begin. So we
Yeah.
hit enter and we see what happens.
Oh, sorry. You need to click the edit button where there was a recent UI change. Yeah, you need to click that. And actually, there's a slight bug. For everybody who's on the call who's going to try this, they're going to also experience the bug. So I'm going to shamelessly tell you about it. Hit refresh,
Refresh me when I refresh.
and then click that, yeah, open it up, and then add a dot, add a period, and then press enter. Okay, so the period trick is to get it to rerun, to recreate the code for you. I'll just show you right now, like remove the period and press enter again, and it generates it again. So if you just wanted to generate more times, but you want to keep your prompt the same, that's the trick to do it. And
All
the
right,
bug is
so
it doesn't work on the right. You have to open it up. So I will fix that very soon. It's just in the meantime, just do that. You don't need to click that button.
uh,
That
I will
button,
say
yeah, go
I will
ahead.
say here just really quickly. So we've generated code automatically. If you wanted to hop in and write some of your code yourself, you would first have to, you see it says cannot edit in read-only editor. Just turn off here these little sparkles, and then you can go in and take a look at and inspect or adjust the code yourself if you so desired, unlike me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you for clicking that. The advantage of clicking that button is that you can see the text more clearly. This will not work because you basically whatever code you do, and we're going with a very complicated example here, like processing a return is not simple. But the thing that you would have to do is you go through the code and you look for stuff for stuff that you think is required to actually do the action. So that like the first line says order number. So is that required to process a return? Like just logically speaking, would you think that it would be required?
Yes.
Okay, so you will have to add that somewhere because right now our bot doesn't have this. So the way we would do that is, can you hit return on the left again?
Before I do that, what do you mean by add that?
Add that to the context of the bot.
So currently, what this means is our bot doesn't store any information about order number at all. It
No,
has no way of knowing that, and it
yeah,
has no way of remembering that at all.
yeah. So we need to change that. So if you click return, the workflow on the left, or actually click something else, yeah, and then click return. You have to click the background here. Yeah, perfect. And then workflow properties, where it says variables. Variables are basically, you can think of it as the context of your bot or of the workflow, but every single variable represents a single piece of information.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
previously, when I mentioned that our bot doesn't store anything related to order number, the way that we get our bot to store pieces of information is we add them through variables.
Yeah,
If you remember, this is what we started our conversation with today, and we've come full circle. I do want to highlight because for the people watching this recording, there's a great question in chat. Can I put a variable in that generate code section that we talked about so we can get the bot to kind of recode itself? And then Gordy answers, you can describe the variable's name and use. So what the variable's name is, in this case, let's say order number, and what its use is to store an order number. And GPT is pretty good at making use of that in generating code. Okay, so
okay.
let's create our variable.
Yeah, and the thing we were missing was what, order number?
Order number.
All right, so let's add that. So the default says string on the top. That just means text for the type. You don't need to worry about that normally. Uh, in all likelihood, the only two types that you would use is Boolean, which is like the true or false one, which is yes or no, or string, which is just text.
All
Even
right.
if,
So
yeah.
if you're interested in the different types of variables, stay tuned to our YouTube channel very soon. All
There
right.
you go. Yeah, so watch Robert's videos if you want to know about these.
Shameless self promo. Okay.
So,
There are two things I want to say here.
uh,
First, we are closing in on 5 minutes left on this stream. So if you've got any like burning last minute questions you wanna ask us, do put them in the chat right now, and we'll try to get to them if we have any time left. I think Patrick, maybe the last task we'll do is we'll just create this variable and then call it a day. Does that sound agreeable?
I want to create the variable, just go back and re-trigger the execute code. So you see, okay, click add, yeah.
All right, so I added the name of the variable that we had here and a description. The description is for internal use, so we know what the variable actually does. Okay.
Then go back to execute code. Click that. Yeah, perfect. And now the period thing, let's use that trick again. So delete, enter, and you're going to see something change. You see the first line? Now it says order number equals workflow.order number. So your code will get any information you provide through variables. I think this is like the really key thing. If something is not working in whatever code you're doing, very often it's not getting the information correctly. And if you haven't provided the information explicitly through a variable, it's just not going to work. So whatever action you're thinking of doing, like if it's adding two numbers, you'll have to have a variable for the first one, for the second one. Once you've built out all these things that you feel like it needs those things for it to function, the code is going to work, usually. It's just going to magically create code that works.
Yeah.
So the process, you just repeat it until you've added all the variables that you need, and then you hit that button, and you press enter, and it will just generate the code that you need, and you can do all sorts of stuff like I see a lot of people want to connect to Google Sheets, add some rows over there. You could do that. You just need to give it the variables that have the information you want, and
Um,
yeah.
Just so you know that this is working, if you hover over the actual variable that we're storing here, Botpress will show you what that variable is. This is great because in a complex bot, you're not just going to have one variable that you'll be able to remember. Let's say you're working on a bot with a bunch of teammates and maybe they create variables that you don't know about. If you hover over them in your code here, you're able to see what the variable type is and then also the description that we put in earlier. So that's why it's really important when you're filling out your variables. Don't leave that description field blank for the sake of future you or your teammates or your clients. Let's say you're building a bot for a customer. It's to everyone's benefit to be organized and well documented. I see some really good questions coming in on the chat, so let's let's see if we can get to them before our time runs out in a couple of minutes. Is there any known issue with latency with Telegram? I'm not sure, though I will say I have seen a couple of people mention this. Do post it in help, and the more times we see this, the easier it'll be to investigate. The more data points that we have, the better it is. Does Botpress have make.com integrations? I don't know. Does anyone else know? Patrick, do you know?
I don't know, but I'm sure it would work if we used execute code.
Ah,
Mugi asked where to add the Shopify API key. That's a thing that you need to add. That's a variable. You can just add it there. There's another place where you can add it. That would be in the bot preferences. I don't know if you want to show it, Robert, but it would work
yes.
if you added it to the workflow.
So let's talk about this. Anytime that you have to add like an API token for access permissions or that kind of thing, those are global variables that you can put in your chatbot settings. So it's able to reference them whenever you want. So you just hit chatbot settings, you go to variables, and that would just be like an environment or a config variable down here. This is also in our documentation, so poke around through there. Or once again, stay attuned to our YouTube channel. We've got a series on variables coming out in the near future. So you'll be able to see all of this and reference that information later. Oh, I love this message from Fritz. Period trick. It doesn't have to be a period. There just has to be some change in the label for it to regenerate code. Yeah, of course. So as long as at least one character is changed, it'll be able to continue regenerating code. All right. We are closing in on 11. So I'm going to say that we'll start ending the stream now here. But much appreciate all of you tuning in here. If you're watching the VOD later on at some who knows time in the future, welcome. Hope you're having a great day. Otherwise, it's noon here, so I'm gonna go have some lunch. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day or night, depending on what time it is where you are. Thanks for all your kind words in the chat. Good luck to all you bot builders. If you have questions or feature requests, make sure you use the appropriate channel. Big thank you to Patrick for joining me on this stream. I did have to bully him into it, but I'm super glad that he was here. No problem for representing no low coders. That's what we're here for. Botpress is for all coding abilities, whether you're an expert or a beginner like me. You're all super welcome. Okay, I'm gonna close up here, and I'll see you all in general. Bye, guys.
Bye.